Hey, so what is going on, everyone? It is me, Mr. Mario, and I just beat Metal Gear Solid, the original one, for the first time. Now, this is not the only time I have played it. I've played it multiple times, but I just have no good reason for never playing through it. But I wanted to play through it before Metal Gear Solid 5 came out because, out of the main series, I've beat 2 through 4, and I've even beat Ground Zeroes, and I just never beat the first one. And one main reason, or one main excuse, is that I knew the story pretty well. I had read through it several times. I'd watched a lot of the cutscenes. I knew, all the major parts of the story. And probably the best thing, I would recommend this, if you don't want to spend, all the hours doing it, I guess, even though it's still a pretty short game. But if you have, an hour and a half, 2 hours on PSP, the digital graphic novel is available. And it's pretty cool because it leads you through the graphic novel, which is pretty much just a comic book version of the first Metal Gear Solid game. And it has all the voice acting in there as well too, so that was the best one in my opinion, aside from playing the actual game or even watching YouTube walkthrough or anything like that. But man, I gotta say, I had to do an impression on this. I had to do it. This isn't even going to be a proper review, anything like that, but I just want to talk about my thoughts on this game. And I have to say, this game, just for the record, for anybody that doesn't know 100%, it was released in 1998 on the PlayStation 1. That is the version I was playing. I wasn't playing, a remaster, remake, or anything like that, not like Twin Snakes. I was playing it on my Vita and on my PS3. And I gotta say this, the game is beyond incredible, even by 2015 standards. Now, I was playing through it without any nostalgia glasses, without any, hype around it, without any fanboyism, anything like that. Yes, I do love the Metal Gear Solid series. I am a fan of it. However, if it does have faults, I will acknowledge those. And I even talked about this in another video, I don't even like the Metal Gear Solid games when I first play them most of the time. It actually takes me years to even enjoy them properly, is the funny thing. So I'm not one of those people that's going to just go blindly play through every Metal Gear Solid and just say it's the greatest thing ever. They are some pretty great games, but I also acknowledge that they are not for everyone. And then with the nostalgia thing, I did play the game when I was younger, but I barely played through it. Like, I don't even remember facing off bosses when I tried playing the game, because when I played the game when I was younger, I was trying to play games, but I was still relatively new to them, so I didn't even know how to properly play games, honestly. But now that I actually went through, I sat down, I played the game, it was beyond incredible, you all. Everything from, the way the game played, the mechanics in there, the storyline was the best part, and that is the main reason why I play the Metal Gear Solid games. So for anybody that doesn't know, as I said, I wanted to get through these games before Metal Gear Solid 5, and the way I even started this was I was actually traveling back home. I was waiting for some flights, and I had my Vita with me. I had Metal Gear Solid 1 there. I said, you know what? Let me try this out, but I don't know if I really want to dedicate myself to this game. So I played through the VR missions on there, because there's only 10 VR missions on the game itself. I'm not talking about Metal Gear Solid VR missions. That's a completely different game. That's only VR missions. So I played through those, so I said, you know what, let me try and play through the actual game. And I only played it for about an hour or two, but I was getting a decent way through there. And I do remember now the game is a lot shorter than what I remember. I used to think it was this huge, really long game, but no, it's a lot shorter of a game than I expected, which is nothing wrong with that. Now, if you really know what you're doing, you can beat this in just a few hours' time, maybe 4 or 5 hours. I'm sure there's even shorter playthroughs of that. For me, it took me about 8 hours to get through it, and the biggest thing for me, at one point, I almost just broke down and made this video, and I said, no, I want to play through the game. I want to see the credits roll before I make this, but my opinion still stands. The biggest thing about this game to me is I love the bad guys, the villains in here, and it is one of the only universes where I truly appreciate that. For example, in this game, my favorite character, not just, out of the bad guys or anything, my favorite character in the entire game is Psycho Mantis. Just, the power he has, the tricks he's able to do, the psychological things he's pulling on everyone, including the player. And in addition to that, then when you beat him, he opens up for the first time, and he says, he wants to help out someone before he dies, and he helps you out to get to the next path and everything, and you're wondering why, and he tells you about his background and everything like that, and you just see him open up to you. right before he passes away. And just scenes like that are just truly beautiful in the game. Even Sniper Wolf, this is the point where I almost broke down and made this video. Sniper Wolf, when you end up defeating her, one of the few times you ever truly feel sorry for defeating a boss. One of the times you truly feel bad for the villain in a game, which is just absolutely crazy. And what I was impressed with was that this was still able to be conveyed perfectly 17 years later. As I said, I wasn't playing a remaster or a remake of the game. I was playing the original, dirty, nasty looking PlayStation 1 version. Granted, you know, I was playing it on a nice OLED screen, you know, on my Vita, or I was playing it through HDMI on my big TV here through my PS3, but at the same time, I mean, it wasn't, there wasn't any big graphical upgrades or patches that I put in there or anything like that. And even looking at it itself, the game looks great for running on the original PlayStation 1. And what is the game about itself? That's a whole big thing. Honestly, that's a whole big thing you can get into, and I don't even have the time. I guess I have the time, but people wouldn't want to take the time to listen to the whole big spiel on here, because personally, I still have to re-understand every single Metal Gear Solid game every time I go through them. But then even the best part with this is that you get through the game, and by the way, there's 2 endings on there. I was able to get the good ending because I was able to survive the torture. I saved Meryl, and at the end, you know what the basis of the game is? It's to live your life and be happy. Like, yes, it's going to lead into Metal Gear Solid 2, and there's all the other conspiracies that are going on in the Metal Gear Solid universe, but the core theme of it at the end is just to live your life and don't just, you know, blindly take orders and everything. And experiencing that and going through that the first time and seeing it, it was absolutely incredible. It was a mind-blowing, moving, beautiful experience in video games, and something that is rare. And you know what? At the same time, this game pissed me off. This game pissed me off so much. You know why? Because this is the best game. This is one of the best games I've played in recent years. This is one of the best games of all time, in my opinion. And it is better, and I have to say this, after completing it, it is better than any game I've played on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, or Wii U. Now, as technology progresses, aren't games supposed to get better? You know, in terms of everything, in terms of originality, storyline, anything like that, but no. And then it kind of made me, you know, be a bit more disappointed with the gaming industry, because yes, even Metal Gear Solid itself is spawning out sequels, but even they, you know, try and do different things. Now, I made another video talking about all the other Metal Gear Solids, but I'll just bring this up real quick. You know, like, for example, Metal Gear Solid 2, the thing I love about that is that, I'm going to say this, I'm not saying it's a bad game, I love that game, but Metal Gear Solid 2 is essentially a parody of Metal Gear Solid. And then Metal Gear Solid 4, that's when you're going in and you're pretty much trying to tie everything back together. You even go back to Shadow Moses from Metal Gear Solid 1 here, and there's one part where Metal Gear Solid 1 itself is emulated partially in the game on the PS4 version, and it's just, they've pushed the bar every single time with it. But I have to say, out of them, you know, the main games so far that I've played, because I haven't played 5 yet, but 1 through 4, I have to say the first Metal Gear Solid is my favorite, hands down. And this really is an important game. You know, there's several things in here. It's one of those games that not only it's excellent, but it's paved the way and inspiration for other games. Like the very last scene, if you've played through it, the last scene where you're escaping the tunnel and you're with Meryl or Otacon, depending on who you're saving and everything, and you're in the back of a Jeep shooting people and everything. It seems a bit like Halo, doesn't it? Where you're in this tunnel and you're trying to escape all these enemies attacking you. Like, that's what I was getting. I was like, you know, I'm pretty sure Halo drew heavy inspiration through this for their final sequence as well. And then, not only that, but this is a whole nother thing. This isn't just for gaming itself, but my friend told me this, and I was a bit mind blown. Now, he is from Puerto Rico, and he came here when he was in high school, I want to say, and that's when I kind of knew him. We became better friends later on outside of high school, but we were talking about this. We were talking about the Metal Gear Solid games, because I just wanted to play through the first one so I could say I'm all prepped up. You know, I've beat all of them before Metal Gear Solid 5. he's going through and he's playing through all of, the Big Boss and Solid Snake related Metal Gear Solid games, including, Peace Walker and some other games. But he told me that Metal Gear Solid, this first one right here, is actually the reason why he learned English and he started learning English. Now, of course, he learned English through other methods as well too. But he said when he was like 8 years old or so, he was living in Puerto Rico, and he had a best friend at the time who was American, but he spoke perfect English and perfect Spanish. Now, over there, they had a modded PS1, and they had a pirated version of Metal Gear Solid. So I'm pretty sure he just picked up the game because it looked cool, and he was playing through it. He had no idea what was going on because he didn't know English, and then he started asking his friend, he's like, hey, what are nanomachines? And his friend is like, why the hell is an 8-year-old asking me about nanomachines? Like, I'm pretty sure his friend didn't even know what they were. But what happened was him and his friend sat down and they started playing this game together, and his friend was translating stuff from English to Spanish for my friend, and because of that, like my friend was saying, that is why Metal Gear Solid is just so important to him, and it's one of his all-time favorite games and series, and he just holds a near and dear place for it in his heart, because without that game, he wouldn't have grasped English as early on, and that really, pushed him into gaming as well too, even a more mature side of gaming, because, obviously the game is rated M, but I have to say, even according to 2015 standards, this game is just absolutely mind-blowing. Now, granted, I'm going to say this. If you're not a Metal Gear Solid fan, because I know people who, they don't like the Metal Gear Solid games, they're just not a fan of this, I understand. You're entitled to your own opinion. It's all good. Maybe you don't want to sit through all those cutscenes. I like that. I liked the truly cinematic experience that Kojima and his team were able to put into this game, and that decades later, nearly 20 years later, this hasn't aged and it's still great. There was not one point in the game where I said, you know what, this seems kind of old school. No, there was nothing like that aside from the graphics, honestly. Now, maybe the controls, I was a little bit spoiled because I've played the smoother, more fluid controls from the other Metal Gear Solid games, but with this itself, I cannot give this game enough praise. I really can't. Now, do I regret not playing through this sooner? Not really, honestly. Not really, because I'm going to go back to my other video. I'm dating myself here, and I'm going to say I really do feel like, at least for me, Metal Gear Solid games get better with age. And you know what? If I play through this game in another 5 years, I think I'm going to have even more good things to say about it. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario, signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. If you have not played this game, I would highly recommend trying it out somehow. Highly recommend it. I mean, if you like it, you like it. If not, whatever, it's just not your cup of tea. Anyways, signing off real this time. Later, everyone.